In this video, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of living right here in Fort Worth, Texas. So if you're considering moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and Fort Worth is on your list, this video is definitely going to be for you, as we're going to cover the good and the bad in regards to living right here in Fort Worth. So stay tuned. My name is Richard SOTO, a local real estate broker with VIP Realty. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as we do weekly videos talking all about living, working, and playing right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Today I'm in downtown Fort Worth, one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Texas. We get calls on a weekly basis from clients from all over the world, Europe, Asia, you name it. We get calls from people from those locations, and oftentimes we get asked, should I move to Dallas or should I move to Fort Worth? And I've done an in-depth video in regards to Dallas versus Fort Worth. So if you want to know more about the two particular cities and how they compare to each other, make sure to check that video out after you watch this one. I'll make sure I leave it in the description. But for now, today we're going to cover the good and the bad in regards to living right here in Fort Worth. There's a lot to love in regards to living right here in Fort Worth. There's great community, there's great real estate options, the economy is booming, the cost of living is low, and we're gonna get into all the pros. However, as we already know, no city's perfect, and neither is Fort Worth, so we're definitely going to cover the cons as well. But as you already know, if you watched my previous videos, I'm all about getting my dessert first, so let's start with the pros. Starting with the first pro, and that's going to be the cost of living, which is great news where you don't have to stand here and take out cash on a daily basis, because if you live in Fort Worth or anywhere in Tarrant County, the cost of living is going to be significantly lower than other major cities across the U.S. As a matter of fact, Area Vibe said the cost of living right here in Fort Worth is 4% lower than the national average. You can expect to pay a bit less for groceries, health, and housing, but a bit more for the cost of utilities and transportation relative to the national average. Fort Worth and Dallas are commonly linked together, but they are very different, and we see that with the cost of living. The cost of living in Fort Worth is 19% cheaper than living in Dallas. Full price comparison shows food is 24% lower, housing is 26% lower, and transportation is 20% lower than compared to Dallas. So if a big factor is going to be your budget, and you're one of the people that called our office at VIP Realty and has tried to decide between Dallas and Fort Worth, if you're just looking at the cost of living, it's a no-brainer. Fort Worth is going to win running away. Moving on to the second pro of living right here in Fort Worth, Texas, and that's going to be the economy and job growth. Just like the whole state of Texas, the economy in Fort Worth has been booming. We have been so blessed to live in the Lone Star State, especially the last 3 years, which have been amazing for our local economy. So if you're looking for a job, whichever industry that might be, whether it's healthcare, schooling, technology, military, defense, gas, oil, whatever you are looking for, you can find yourself a job right here. And if you can't find one, I'm sorry, you're just not looking hard enough. The only issues that I've seen over the last 3 years is people have been lazy. Many restaurants and businesses and personal business owner friends of mine have had a hard time finding people to fill positions. So if you're in another part of the country and the economy is lacking, or you can't find a job, fly your behind, drive to Texas, take a speedboat, whatever it takes, and you will find a career right here in Fort Worth. So if you're also looking to scale your business and take it to the next level, Fort Worth is going to be a great location for you as well. In 2018, Wallet Hub named Fort Worth in its top 20 best large cities to start a business. Major jobs are in healthcare, finance, telecommunications, education, tourism, and retail trade, making Fort Worth a diverse commercial hub. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is home to an abundance of Fortune 500 companies, ranking 4th highest in the United States. I have to say there are plenty of opportunities and jobs in Fort Worth, but if you can't find a job in Fort Worth, you're about 30 minutes from Dallas, which is ranked the 3rd best city for job seekers. Moving on to the next pro of living right here in Fort Worth, and that's going to be there's plenty of things to do. Whether you're single or you have a family, there's going to be an entertainment option for you each and every day of the week. Whether you like to go shopping, whether you like to frequent downtown, have a nice stroll, see the scenery, there's a ton of parks and recreation. There's lakes nearby as well, jogging trails, walking trails, comedy shows, whatever it is that you're looking for. This is a large city. You're going to have access to plenty of entertainment. One of my favorite things to do when in Fort Worth is visit the Fort Worth Zoo. In my opinion, it's the 2nd best zoo in the country, next to the San Diego Zoo, but the Fort Worth Zoo is amazing. You can spend a couple of hours with your children or the whole day. It's totally up to you, but plenty of entertainment right here in Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth offers tons of places to have fun by yourself or with your family, far beyond football and the rodeo. You'll find a long list of parks, museums, shopping centers, food spots, and a laundry list of other things to do. A few local favorites are the Sundance Square Plaza and the fabulous Fort Worth Zoo. You also have the Fort Worth Stockyards as well. At these locations, you'll find comedy shows, shopping centers, and tons of other experiences to make you never want to leave the area. Fort Worth downtown is repeatedly recognized as one of the nation's best. It's a kid-friendly city with lots of water parks and amusement parks nearby, as well as a science museum that's tailored to younger folks. There are more than 100 miles of biking, hiking trails along the Trinity River, a gazillion restaurants serving food of every imaginable nationality, with Mexican food obviously dominating the scene. Moving on to the next pro living in Fort Worth, and that's going to be diverse population. Right now I'm in front of 92.1. I've never listened to this radio station, I must admit, but it's a country station. And just because you live in Fort Worth, Texas, doesn't mean you're going to have to listen to country music. I know we have the Stockyards here, but the city is very diverse, which makes this a great community to live, work, and play in as well. The people of Fort Worth are one of the main reasons why it's able to offer such a huge range of cultural experiences. While the majority of Fort Worth's population is white, non-Hispanic, the city is also home to a large Hispanic, Black, and Asian community. Fort Worth also welcomes a whole range of religious beliefs. This has big impact on cultural diversity within the city. It also ensures that the city is a welcoming place for anyone who wants to live here. Let's move in to the cons of living right here in Fort Worth, and there's going to be several, starting with the number 1 con, which I lead every pros and cons video on every city that I do in the state of Texas with this con. However, it is what it is. It's just a fact. We're living in Texas, and that is going to be the heat. Guys, typically, when it's not summer, I do like to wear a button down, some slacks, a nice pair of dress shoes, a crispy belt along with the attire. However, please don't think I'm not professional because I'm wearing a $2 t-shirt and some shorts. It is too hot in Texas during the summer to be wearing that type of clothing for myself anyways. Now, if you pan to the street, you'll see a glimpse of the sun. And guys, I can't walk out there because I'm liable to melt. And anytime I'm walking the streets of Dallas and Fort Worth, you will see me up against the wall, hiding from the sun, trying to stay in the shade as much as possible. The average temperature in the DFW Metroplex during the summer is 95 degrees Fahrenheit, which with the humidity is going to make it feel like 110. As a matter of fact, today I checked out the weather and it's supposedly going to be 107 degrees. As I'm going back into Dallas and I pass the DFW airport, I'm going to be tempted to stop by the DFW International Airport and catch a short flight to San Diego. I don't know. I have a lot of work to do, or I'd be tempted to do so. Another con in regards to weather is that in Fort Worth and Dallas, sometimes we'll get hail. And hail can cause a lot of damage, not only to your vehicle, but to your home and property as well. And on a rare occasion, a tornado might come through Fort Worth. As a matter of fact, one came through downtown Fort Worth several years back, or many years back. I don't recall when, it's probably 10, 12 years ago, but it did do a lot of damage in downtown. Very unlikely. However, the weather in Fort Worth can be very challenging. The risk of tornado damage in Fort Worth is much higher than Texas average and is much higher than the national average. Another downside to Fort Worth's weather is the occasional hailstorm, which could cause significant damage to your home and vehicles. Hail, not tornadoes, is the most expensive severe storm hazard in Texas. Moving on to the second con of living right here in Fort Worth, Texas, and that's going to be the Fort Worth ISD. Over the last several years, the Fort Worth Independent School District has seen some challenges in regards to overcrowding, a lack of funding, poor building conditions. So if education is of top priority, Fort Worth to me is going to have some challenges, to say the least. As a matter of fact, Niche.com gave the Fort Worth ISD a B- rating. And I would guess maybe a little bit less than most of the schools. The good part in regards to Fort Worth is there's so many new suburbs being built outside of the city where you can have access to exceptional public education. However, you'll have other options in regards to schools. You can have access to some private schools nearby or some charter schools. So those are always an option. However, the public ISD is definitely going to be a con if you live right here in Fort Worth. Moving on to the next con of living right here in Fort Worth, and that's going to be crime. As a matter of fact, crimegrade.org gave the city of Fort Worth a D+, which is horrible. Horrible, and it's way higher than the national average. The good thing about living in Fort Worth is my uncle owns a boxing gym, Round One Boxing, where you can learn how to defend yourself in the city of Fort Worth. So safety, being secure. I've never had issues in Fort Worth. I come here all the time. I have family that live here. However, as they say, numbers don't lie, and Fort Worth definitely gets a failing grade. The D+ grade means the rate of crime is higher than the average U.S. city. Fort Worth is in the 29th percentile for safety, meaning 71% of cities are safer and 29% of cities are more dangerous. Fort Worth was ranked a little higher than Dallas when it comes to crime. Moving on to the next con, and that's going to be traffic. And if you live in Fort Worth, there's going to be a lot of it. Fort Worth was ranked number 37 in the global traffic scorecard, and that is a category that you don't want to be leading in due to the fact that Fort Worth is growing so rapidly. There's an influx of population. There's accidents throughout the city. In addition to that, there's a lot of road construction. So there's going to be a ton of traffic in Fort Worth. On average, a Fort Worth resident will lose 39 hours per year due to traffic congestion. Wow, that is ridiculous. And not to mention, a lot of the traffic congestion is due to driving habits as well, due to this particular study. And that leads me to my next point. If you are new to town, or if you've been a long life Texas resident, if you are on the far left-hand lane, aka the hammer lane, aka the passing lane, and you are not passing people, get your butt out the way and please merge to the center or the far right-hand lane, and you can take your little sweet time. However, I see this on a daily basis. People driving 55 miles an hour down 35, literally making traffic havoc because they don't know how to drive, and apparently they missed that particular question on their driver's exam. So if you're thinking you're going to zip in and out and around town, especially during traffic hours, you're sorely mistaken. Major con in Fort Worth is going to be traffic. Moving on to the last con of living right here in Fort Worth is I'm perspiring just standing in the shade. And the last con is going to be, let me just show you. No, I'm not pointing at the oil spot. I'm pointing at the flat street. One thing that I dislike about the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, besides the heat, is the landscape. It is flat. Flat. I don't care what anybody says in the comments. You can probably see, if I had some binoculars on one of these tall buildings, I could see straight to Dallas because there are no mountains, there are no hills, there are no beaches, there is no scenery whatsoever, unlike when me and my little guy Nathan fly into San Diego, rent the car, and take that drive up to LA. Oh, beauty. It's so gorgeous, and the weather's perfect while we're there, but there's nothing to look at in Fort Worth unless you're looking at the skyline or your beautiful lady on your arm. That's about it. So, landscape, definitely a negative and a con right here in Fort Worth, Texas. I hope you enjoyed the video in regards to the pros and cons of living in Fort Worth, Texas. I absolutely love Fort Worth. It's one of my favorite cities right here in North Texas. And if you're thinking about relocating to Fort Worth or North Texas or throughout the state of Texas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Midland, my team and I would love to assist you with your next real estate transaction, whether you're looking to buy or lease or you're looking to do a commercial acquisition. I have a team and offices throughout the state of Texas, and I'd love to assist you. So, as always, we'll see you on the next video.